the New York State Senate, Andrea Steward-Cousin. New York State Senator Shelley Mayer. The Mayor of the City of Yonkers, Mike Spano. County Executive for Westchester, George Latimer. The Superintendent of Schools for the Yonkers Public Schools, Edward Quesada. And please join me in welcoming the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to Enrico Fermi School. Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la escuela de Enrico Fermi. My name is Kelsey Gregorio Aguirre, and I am student body president of the student government of Enrico Fermi. I would like to tell you a few things about our school. We are a diverse group of students, teachers, staff, and families representing many cultures who are proud of Enrico Fermi's warm and nurturing environment. This building was erected in 1925, and for the past 97 years, tens of thousands of students receive an outstanding education. Enrico Fermi is one of Yonkers' premier transitional bilingual education schools, providing educational experiences and instruction in Spanish and in the new students' language, English. Our career opportunities and real-world experiences curriculum, CORE, teaches students like me financial literacy to help us prepare us for our future. We are honored to welcome Governor Kathy Hochul to Yonkers Public Schools, the best urban district school in America. Last year, Yonkers' graduation rate was 91%. We did better than the New York State average and the other large districts. And we were equal to our peers in Westchester County. It is with great pride that I introduce Kathy Hochul, the New York State Governor.
Buenas tardes, it's great to be here. Hola. Kelsey, that's quite a claim. The most significant, the most highest achieving urban school in America. And it's happening right here. And I want to thank you. We had a chance to talk to your 8th grade class about everyone's ambitions and their goals and how I was an 8th grader when I decided that I wanted to be on a path toward public service. It was my 8th grade social studies teacher, Mr. Peter James, at my public school. We had just taken a trip to Washington, D.C. I had a chance to see our nation's capital and said, maybe someday, now this is kind of out there, maybe someday I could actually be a staffer for a senator someday. That's a true story. Because when you're in 8th grade and you're heading off to high school, everybody's saying, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? You want to be? Oh, I wanted to be an FBI agent. They told me I was too short, so okay, that was ruled out. And I decided, I'll just get everybody off my back and I'll say I'm going to be a staffer on Capitol Hill. Achieved that when I was about 27, and the rest have been made up since then. So I wanted her to know that I also believe that 8th graders and students have great capacity to give. And they're talking about their ways that they're promoting equity and inclusion in their classrooms and speaking about issues that we did not address when we were younger. And I believe that that is part of the transformation, diversity, equity, and inclusion to be talked about by 8th grade students to set them on a path to achieve those goals as they carry out their lives after they leave the classroom. So I was really inspired to hear that that is one of the priorities at this fantastic school. So thank you, Kelsey, for your work. I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. She asked me when we went to college, so I said maybe you can go there as well. But we are very fortunate to be here. Also in the home of our majority leader for the New York State Senate, a person of great courage, intellect, and compassion. And that is our majority leader, Andrea. I was happy to be back with the Mayor Spano of the City of Yonkers. We've had many conversations about what we can do collaboratively, because this was not always the case. local government and state government working together. I know that because when I was in local government, I was constantly complaining about state government. So I know what that's like. But hopefully that's the history and not the present anymore. So I'm here to span up. And someone I've mentioned a number of times, we really deepened our relationship through the pandemic and dealing with those challenges. And that is our county executive, who brought me many times to see the incredible system he set up, the vaccination center, which was really a very wonderful place when there was music and there was just this sense of like, wow, this is a great place to be. When there was such anxiety here as being one of the epicenters of the pandemic right here in Westchester County. George Latimer, I want to continue to thank you for your extraordinary leadership as our county executive. As we talk about the great success of the Yonkers City Schools, it is that, I just talked to the superintendent, leadership does matter. A lot of school districts, okay, you get a certain amount of money, and you know you're supposed to teach students, but what makes the difference? And I believe it starts in our classrooms with incredible teachers, and our principals, and our administrators, but it takes someone to empower them, and to make them feel that they're part of not a problem, but the solution, which is to give every young person the highest quality education that is capable of being given. And I want to thank our school superintendent for over 7 years, making a difference every single day, Dr. Edwin Quesada. I have amazing partners at the state level as well, with Senator Shelley Mayer, who is the chair of the Senate Education Committee, out there fighting for every single dollar that has shown up in our budget. Our Assembly member, Gary Pretlow, I don't know if Gary's here or not, I think he's going to be joining us, as well as Nader Sanch. I want to thank him for being such a friend and ally and a real fighter for your district. True fighter. So we've been to Yonkers a lot lately. Please don't tell all the other cities. We are here in dealing with the Ukrainian relief just a few months ago, back in March. And I had a chance to sit down with the mayor back in October. We were here to tour Hurricane Ida damage. Remember that, Nader? That was heartbreaking to see. Mother Nature was really unhappy with Westchester County that day. But also, traveling this community has just been a high honor. And no matter where I go, when I hear about Westchester, there is a huge sense of pride about having the best students, the best teachers, the best schools. And it doesn't matter the socioeconomic status of the community. It's about the leadership, as I mentioned. So a school like this, on paper, is not a wealthy school district. They're getting the same or even better results in other districts that are more affluent. This is a story that is powerful locally, but it's also one that inspires other school districts and says if they can do it in Yonkers with a beautifully diverse community, a lot of new Americans settling here, huge sense of pride for us, but people where English is not the first language, and they may have strikes against them because they don't have necessarily the highest paying jobs from the get-go. Maybe their children will, but not when they first arrive. And yet they succeed. They surpass all expectations and have over 90% graduation rate. That is astounding to me. And I want everyone to know. And let's give that a round of applause. So you're doing your work right here. You're doing your work, and we have to do ours. And at the state level, that means making sure you have every dollar you need to continue to transform not just schools, but the lives of our students, and to put them on a path of great opportunity and their ability to make contributions to their community and they're older. That's what's going on here, and that is why I find this so exciting. That's why I'm so proud to have just signed a budget, supported a budget that had the highest investment in education in our state's history. $31.5 billion in aid. I'm going to repeat that. $31.5 billion to help transform the lives of our children. Every penny is worth it. Every penny is worth it. That's a $2 billion increase, over 7% increase over just the prior year. So that is we're also going to continue fully funding something called foundation aid. You know what I'm talking about. This was a battle royale for a long time. And it was decided that communities like Yonkers and others needed extra help. And that help was denied for far too long. So we settled the lawsuit, we put the money in the budget, we're going to continue doing this until we make these communities whole with the foundation they deserve. So we're going to continue doing that as well. So Superintendent, how does $360 million for your school district sound? Will you take that? I thought you would. $360 million. That's an increase of over $25 million, and that's incredible. And $246 million for foundation aid, another 5% increase over the previous year. So you're already setting records, we're setting records, and now the question is, how can we continue creating opportunities for New Yorkers? And our budget doesn't just talk about the money coming to districts. It's also about investing in the teachers. And when I was back in my public schools growing up, there were a lot of people who wanted to be teachers. A lot of women, it's the only job they had. You could be a teacher, maybe a nurse, because you have to take care of the kids. There's no support, there's no child care. So options for women were limited at the time. And a lot of people went into this incredible profession, a lot of my family members. But we're not seeing the same numbers go into those fields anymore. So contrast to when there were almost too many teachers a generation ago, now we have a real shortage of teachers in our classrooms. And that's not sustainable. And there are teachers, others who might have been close to retirement or just for the pandemic, just like our healthcare workers, sometimes they just think, you know, this is just really tough, and they moved on. We have to replace them. But how do we rebuild this system quickly? Because our students are sitting there right now, needing teachers to this day. So we're going to continue focusing on how we can help our teachers, help existing teachers, help recruit more teachers, and also help our teachers who are dealing with something they could not have foreseen before the pandemic. Is that students in their classrooms, that some of them are doing just fine. They're learning, they're thriving. But you strip them away from that nurturing environment for nearly 2 years. And now you're back at home. And every home was different. Some people had tutors, taking care of the kids, making sure that they had everything, you know, the password was right, they could turn on the device, the classroom was there in their home. Other kids, they didn't have broadband at home, they didn't have the internet. They might have had one cell phone with the family, and I've heard this story. Multiple children were sharing this to try and learn on a cell phone all day long. Can you imagine staring at this all day and saying that that was your education? Now, people did the best they could. What was the alternative? A lot of fear, anxiety, a pandemic we didn't know what we were dealing with. And the teachers were absolutely incredible of what they had to endure. But the students paid a price. And we're feeling the effects today. And that is why we had to put money in our budget to help provide mental health support in the classroom. That's something else we're doing. We also need money for preschool. This is the game changer in many children's lives. This makes all the difference, whether in some places they're just sitting in front of a television or a video game for their early childhood years and calling that an existence, versus being in an educational environment with trained professionals. And for parents, especially the moms trying to get back to work and having preschool for your children, you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to worry about who's going to take care of them. They're in a safe place. So we added another $125 million to fund full-day pre-kindergarten. And that's going to provide nearly 20,000 new seats available. Also retraining and recruiting our teachers and rebuilding and expanding the workforce, creating a state teacher residency program, bringing more teachers into the schools earlier while they're still in school. Don't wait till they're done. Bring them in earlier. Create a connection with the local school where they can develop relationships before they have their degree. There's a higher chance they're going to want to stay there. They develop relationships, friendships, mentors. That's what we're going to focus on as well. So this is before they begin their careers, they're going to have the support. We're going to expand alternative teacher certification programs, make it easier for professionals in other careers to become teachers, and grants for paraprofessionals already employed in school districts. How about incentivizing some of our retired teachers to come back? I believe in that. There's a lot of talented individuals out there. And just waive some of the restrictions like on pensions. I mean, don't let that be a barrier to coming back and using your talents and the passion you still have for teaching. Why not use it now? Also, we're making sure that we can bring teachers from elsewhere, other states, breaking down some of the barriers who want to move to our state and make their skills and their certificates more transferable. We talk about our classrooms, education, teachers, mental health. There's also a long-term effect related to our environment. And something like school buses. And a lot of children stand there waiting to get on a bus. They're breathing in the fumes. A lot of kids have asthma. This is not healthy. So why don't we electrify all the school buses, save millions of dollars in energy costs, gas prices going up to the roof, which the price of gas at the pump, but also to make the environment even cleaner. So all new school bus purchases will be zero emissions by the year 2027, and all school buses on the road, new buses will be 2035. So that's an investment we're making there. I'll also talk about what we have at the other end of the pipeline for people like Kelsey. Investing in higher education, because you have to know that this is not going to be so far out of reach that it's too expensive. That doesn't give you a dream of getting that degree if you just think it's never going to happen. What we realize, so many students were going to be figuring out how to pay for their community college, for example. They work one semester, okay, put that money aside, they can pay for tuition the next semester, go to school, stop, go back to work, make money for the next semester. Is there any wonder it takes so long for people to get a 2-year or 4-year degree when they have to pay for it that way? Not everybody has a 529 plan and put there since they're born. That's a rarity in many communities. So tuition assistance, only available for full-time students, didn't make sense. We changed that in this budget, and I thank my partners once again. Now tuition assistance is available for part-time students. It should have always been the way they put the money behind that as well. So, these are just some of the areas that I came here, so I'm so excited. I'm proud of this school district. I'm proud of everyone who's part of this whole ecosystem, because your graduates, students in K through 8, all the way up through high school, they have a chance. They have a chance not just to survive, they have an opportunity to thrive. And that is why these investments made sense. It was the right thing to do. That's the question we ask ourselves every single day. What is best for New Yorkers? What is best for our children? And what is best for their future? And I believe this transformative budget accomplishes just that. So thank you very much for supporting us. Thank you for welcoming us here to this incredible school day. And with that, let me bring up our majority leader, Yonkers' own Andrea Steward-Cousin.
All the time, you know, we're like both huggers, but then it's COVID, so we're not hugging, but then she hugs everybody anyway, but it's because of who she is. And I am just really thrilled to be here with all of you. I mean, we have been through this journey. I'm not going to ask you to date yourselves by raising your hands to say how long we have been fighting this fight. And of course, I want to also say to my partners in government, the mayor, thank you so much, Mayor Spano, for your investment, as well as the City Council in this school and the continued relationship we had in trying to make sure that Yonkers, and frankly, every child, gets what they need in order to succeed. So thank you, Mayor. And Dr. Quezada, you know, 7 years is a long time. But, you know, every moment of that has really been kind of focused on making sure that we continue to uplift the young children and, you know, the future in these buildings. And you've been, you know, again, a remarkable partner, so I thank you for that as well. Dr. Q. And of course, my partner in the Senate, Senator Shelley Mayer, you know, as leader, I get to pick who does what. And I knew in terms of education, there would be no better leader for, you know, not only where we are, but for the state. On behalf of the Senate, then Senator Shelley Mayer, thank you for the outstanding job you did. And of course, you know, I wanted to, you know, point out, as the governor did, George Latimer, because George has served, and he'll tell you he's been here and here and there and there, and you know, he hung out. We hung out together first in the county legislature, and then we both left. One of the reasons I left is because I really wanted to tackle this education situation, and as the county does a lot, but it doesn't do education, so you know, I needed to get out. And then of course he was in the assembly, then came to the Senate, and then came back to the county. And everybody's where they need to be when they need to be there. And George certainly, you know, although we miss him on the state level, on behalf of grateful Westchester residents, George, we are certainly happy for your leadership here in Westchester County. And my lovely, lovely Kelsey, thank you. It's not easy being the president of the student body, right? I mean, they want you to fix everything, right? All the time, right? I know. And you keep smiling, you gotta listen to everybody. Only the beginning. Thank you for being such an outstanding example. And I met a lot of the student body here. Really amazing. So, the governor has been very busy. And, you know, I don't think she gets a chance to get out enough to talk about the great things that have actually happened in this budget. So I am really, really pleased that she came to Yonkers, to my district, to this amazing school district, to talk about where we have gotten and this historic budget and this historic investment in education. But what she also won't say, which is I get to say because I always like to try and throw in a little bit of context, is that for me, as I said, when I came to the Senate, I wanted to fix this education piece. There had been a case that had happened, parents had gone, they had begged for every child to get what they needed, and certainly it was found that in communities of color, communities that served kids of color, poorer districts, had been systematically really deprived of the resources that should have come to these districts. And after parents figured it out, they sued. And the lawsuit was called CFE. And after it was resolved, it took about 13 years, there was a governor who did not, and I was not serving during that time, who did not, because of the expense of it all, want to pay the money that was owed. When I came in with the governor, Elliot Spitzer, who said he was going to pay that money and had figured out how to do it. And then the Great Recession came, and things happened to him, and he was gone. And then we had another governor who said that because of the recession, we couldn't pay. In fact, we would have to take money back from schools. And then we had another governor who said we could maybe pay, but we don't like the way the first formula was, let's have another formula. And the conversation always came back to the same thing. How are we going to make whole these districts that didn't have, don't have, and if we don't actually pay them, we'll never have? How are we going to do that? And during COVID and this crisis, we all looked around And we all knew what we knew. The fissures, the inequity. We knew who was suffering more. We knew who didn't have broadband. We knew who was sitting out there trying to figure out how to deal with child care and how to deal with health care and who are essential. We knew that. And we promised when we had this opportunity now, and we had federal resources, and I want to thank our federal partners, Senator Schumer and Gillibrand and our congressional delegation, we had extra resources, but we knew we had to make good finally. And we set out a plan, we got to do this, and we got to do this in 3 years, and we were able to. The first year was last year, and then there was a change in who's governor. And I already saw what all those changes, you're the best player, and one comes in, and well, that's not good enough, honor system. Not her. Governor Hochul came in, saw exactly what needed to be seen, saw that there was a desire, a necessity, an imperative, a fiscal and moral imperative to make sure that we made good of the promises to these kids who've been waiting so long, and their teachers and their superintendents and their parents, to make good on all that. Just ensure that we continue this next year. She understands not only our values, but the values that matter to build the future that we have to build. Thank you, Governor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As always with budgets, there's a lot to talk about. But we didn't have to talk about dumb things. We didn't have to talk about the $12 million that we always kind of put into the foundation, and we didn't have to talk about that. And we didn't have to talk about the need for the billions that will make sure that our kids have opportunities. I'll close with saying when I was growing up, I was one of those who I didn't have opportunities. They told me I didn't have it. They told me I wasn't college material. They told, what they tell black kids back then, that you just can't do anything. And the women who could, who also were limited, yes, they would be teachers, they would be secretaries, you could be a phone operator, there were things you could do, but there was limit. The problem that we have with having educators is that Kelsey knows that she could be a governor, that she could be a president, that she could be a senator, that she could be an astronaut, that she could be a sculptor, that she could be anything you want to be. And so, that's what education has done. The education of a population that stopped limiting people for no reason. The education of a population that says, Kelsey, you can be everything. And the education of a population that must remind people that education is the key and that we need good teachers. We will keep investing in you, and the teachers will grow and come. Thank you so very, very much. Let me introduce my buddy. I already told you about her, the chair of the Senate. You gotta read the program. The chair of the Senate Education Committee, Senator Shelley Mayer.
Thank you, Madam Leader. And Governor, I can't think of a better place to come and talk about education than the grittiest, most passionate community about education you will find in the state of New York. The Yonkers education advocates, and there's so many of them here, who've been fighting for years and years and years and years, and unified among disparate voices to make sure that somebody in Albany understood, once and for all, that we say every kid, regardless of zip code, we're talking about Enrico Fermi and the Yonkers Public Schools. You understood that. We are so appreciative to have a governor who gets, when we say every kid regardless of zip code, we are talking about you, Kelsey, and the other kids here, and every child that is going to do better because of your commitment together with our work. So thank you for being here in the heart of the education battle. given their heart and soul to get to a place where Dr. Quesada could hire guidance counselors and social workers. We could go back to art and music and have sports. We're not there yet. We got further to go. I'm sure you'll hear from him. But we are on a path that is the path to victory for our kids. And I'm so appreciative that with your leadership and with the leadership of my leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousin and Carl Hasty, and with the partnership of the mayor and the council and the Board of Education here in Yonkers, we are finally able to turn the corner. This has been a long, long time coming. And I always say that having a governor who is willing to come to a public school, understand a public school serving a community of need, this is the heart of our future. And we are so thankful that we have turned the corner. We're not begging anymore. We're on a partnership to find a path forward. We don't need to beg. We have a governor who is willing to understand that that CFE lawsuit and the law that was adopted in 2007 that put that into the statute is the governing law, and we are going to get all that we are owed, and then hopefully some more to get us to the place we need to be. So I'm just thrilled to be here, and I just want to mention a few other things that our leader fought for together with the Assembly. Full-day pre-K in as many districts as we can, giving Yonkers and every other district more resources to expand and strengthen full-day pre-K. We in Yonkers know how important this is. Thank you for that commitment, and we're going to continue to work on that. Mental health services for our kids as they recover from COVID. Thank you for a real commitment to making sure that's available. And while you mentioned it, child care as an expansion and higher ed. This is a continuum. Kelsey, you're going to go from here to the next superstar place. We want to create all those pathways. And with the leadership of Andrea Stewart-Cousin in the Senate, with the governor, with the leadership of Speaker Hasty and my colleagues in the Assembly, we are finally on a new path. And so I'm thrilled to be here in my hometown, finally declaring that we are past the begging stage and we are on the partnership stage to doing the right thing for our kids. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to have you. And next, it's my honor to introduce, he doesn't need any introduction, my friend, my colleague, partner in government, the great mayor of the city of Yonkers, Mike Spencer.
Sorry, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousin. She said buddy, I think it was me. But, Governor Hochul, members of the delegation, obviously Dr. Quesada, the Majority Leader of the Council, Tasha Diaz, and of course, Council Members Rubo and Green, Minority Leader Green, and I'm also looking at the trustees that are here. And it's been a battle. It really has been. Right? The governor, it's been wonderful since you've been governor. You know, when you talk about leadership and the change of the way we attack the problem, it happened right here in our very own city. Previous administrations, and I was in the state legislature, and I remember a previous mayor saying, yeah, it's a $50 million hole, shut the lights off when you way out the door, because unless Governor so-and-so takes care of it, we're not going to worry about it. Samantha Ciriello will tell you, 500 teacher layoffs. That's what we heard every single year. So people in our city would vote with their feet because they would leave, or they were held captive in a district they didn't want to be in. And that was the one thing that, along with the city council, the trustees, our PTAs, one thing that we decided we were going to do. We were going to do it very early on. And we were going to make a statement. And our statement was, come hell or high water, these are our kids. And we're going to make sure that our kids get the education they deserve. At the same time, we're going to fight for additional funding. And with the leadership of our Senate Majority Leader, members of the delegation, obviously this great governor we have, we're seeing that. New York State's finally funding the formula. We still want to see it change a little bit. But they're finally funding the formula, and Yonkers is getting the benefits. And we went from, Governor, from barely into the 70s graduation rate to now a 91% graduation rate. That is a number that competes with Westchester schools. And you know what? We all know Westchester's got some of the finest school districts in the entire country, probably the world. And we're competing right up there with them, with the very best of them. Our kids should never be dismissed. Look at Kelsey. Kelsey is the finest example. What Yonkers has to offer, over 70% of our kids live at or below the rate of poverty. We don't get what you get in terms of buildings on either side of the river or the rail tracks, right? But yet our kids, because they have great teachers, administration, they just continue to exceed. They continue to break barriers. They don't accept mediocrity. They just say, how can we do more? How can we be better? How can we lead rather than follow behind? And you know what? I love it. I love being married because I get to follow all of you. And I just want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to our wonderful Governor Hochul, because she is the one thing she asked me about when she first became governor. Said, what can we do? And I said, Governor, we just need help in our schools. And she said, we're going to make that happen this year. And I didn't have to, Senator Wright, I didn't have to go up to Albany and beg this year for anything, because we had a governor who recognized our needs and was willing to make it work for us. And I want to say thank you, Governor. Thank you to Majority Leader. Thank you to the members of the delegation. And the future is bright for our city. We are doing well in every category, Governor. We have low unemployment. We have the lowest crime rate. Our kids are graduating at the highest numbers. There are really wonderful things happening. And we are a wonderfully diverse community. We've showed the world that we can make it work. Right, Dr. Bostic? So thank you. Now I'm going to introduce my good friend and colleague. He's our county executive, somebody that I have worked with at the county level and at the state level. And you know, we both have fun jobs. Now we're kings of our own little anthills. But he is one of the hardest working elected officials that you will ever know, and that's our county executive, George Lyon.
Buenas tardes, mi amigos. And just in case we have to be bilingual, bonjour, mes amis. We have to be very cultured with our education these days, and I want to thank Governor Hochul and all of my colleagues in government for this moment, which is really a fabulous moment. I want to recognize that with me today is the Deputy County Executive, the Yonkers Board, Ken Jenkins. And also in his district, he gave me a visitor's pass that I could actually come to this side of Yonkers. Jose Alvarado, our county legislator for years. Mike and I spent time together, not only in the county legislature, but we served together in the New York State Assembly, 7 years together. And I remember when these education battles were going on and we were in the Assembly, it was critical for Mike to fight for money for Yonkers school districts. And I represented a district on the other side of the county that included New Rochelle and Portchester. And it was like the Hunger Games. It was, you know, how do you pit one of these big five cities against another one of these big five cities? And Long Island was going to get this percentage, and I remember Mike would rally the rest of us in the Assembly to stand behind what Yonkers needed. That was dysfunction. And there's a lot that the reporters will talk about, dysfunction in the state government. So let's report functionality in the state government. Let's report how Governor Hochul has changed the narrative on public education in this state. Not just in Yonkers, in this state. That narrative was changed by Governor Kathy Hochul. And it's important to understand, as Mike, I'm glad when he said his kingdom, I looked at the city council, they didn't quite see it that way. And when he put me in the same category, I looked at Jose, and he didn't quite see it that way. Legislators and executives have sort of a natural tension. Do not mistake love and friendship for agreement. There are times in which the natural process of democracy puts us back and forth with each other. But what happens at every level of government is the end product. And the end product of this commitment to education is every bit as much the credit of Andrea Steward-Cousin, Shelley Mayer, the members of the Senate, Nader Sage, and Gary Pretlow, and the members of the State Assembly. They all together have made this day happen. So our senators, our assembly members, thank you as well. Governor Hochul's leadership, their leadership has brought us to this day. Now, Kelsey, I know it seems impossible to imagine this because I'm like way older than you. But once upon a time, I too was an 8th grader. And I was an 8th grader one town east of us here in the city of Mount Vernon, which is really just a junior-sized version of what Yonkers is in the larger size. An urban area. I'm a South Side boy. I went to Washington Junior High School in 8th grade. And on the south side of Mount Vernon, just like in Yonkers, just like in Ossining, just like in Sleepy Hollow, in Portchester, in New Rochelle, and I might extrapolate, Syracuse, Buffalo, Albany, Utica, all the other places in this state where there are urban needs, there's one path that ultimately solves those problems, and that's education. There is no other path up. My dad quit school in the 6th grade. My mother quit school in the 8th grade during the Depression because they had to work to support the families that they were members of now. When I graduated from high school, Mount Vernon High School in 1970, my sister followed fairly close behind me a couple years later. That was the proudest day in their life. I didn't think of it as much as high school. I made it from 8th grade to 12th grade. But education was something that was a luxury to them. And if you know your American history, it was only at the turn of the prior century that America admitted that education was a right, that every person needed to have a quality education. That's what Governor Hochul has ensured with dollars and cents. It backs up a commitment made over 100 years ago. There's only one path for a democratic society, and that's through the educated citizenry, so that they can understand what their opportunities are and how to be good citizens, and more importantly, so they can achieve their economic future. Because what do we all hope for? Those of us who have children, now grandchildren, what do we hope for? We hope for the best possible life for those kids. And they don't achieve that unless they have education. And all of the people who in previous years didn't make the commitment financially for education, Governor Kathy Hochul and this state legislature has made the commitment, the money to back up the philosophy that all boats rise when education allows you to be part of that rising tide. That's what's critical. That's what we've accomplished today. And again, I thank Governor Hochul, Senator Stewart-Cousin, and the senators and the assembly members for making this day come, not only for Yonkers, but for every child everywhere in this state. Every child everywhere in this state. Martha Lopez, who's the city councilwoman in the west end of New Rochelle, is here, and she's taken notes, because in the west end of New Rochelle, they want the same thing that Yonkers gets. And for that matter, so does Sherry Rosen Asher, who's a village trustee in Dobbs Ferry. We all need the commitment, and that is what this state government has done. So when you report about dysfunctionality, report about functionality, because that's what today stands for, the functionality of state government that produced a result in education. I now give you a professional of education, 7 years as school superintendent, 25 years in this school district. That means a lifetime commitment to the students of Yonkers. The superintendent of the school, City School of Yonkers, Dr. Edwin Casada.
Good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos sean. Now, I love to listen to educators speak about education, but it's even more impressive when you listen to elected officials speak about education, because that means that those of us in education, we change the conversation. Because ultimately, this is about children and what it is that we need to do to support their growth, their achievement, and equally important, the success of the community in which they are. Kelsey, I too was an 8th grader. But guess what? I was an 8th grader in the Dominican Republic. As a matter of fact, I was a 10th grader in the Dominican Republic. Okay? So if I came from the Dominican Republic in the 10th grade and became the superintendent of the best urban school district in America, then so should you. And so should every child that comes through the doors of the Yonkers Public Schools. Now, let me say that this operation, Governor, is not possible unless we have principals such as Mr. Mark Ametrano. Allow me to recognize this principal, Mr. Mark Ametrano. Phenomenal work putting this event together with the governor's team. And just like Kelsey, I want graders that are here, please stand, 8th graders. Because please stand. Because this conversation, you may sit, thank you. This conversation is about putting children in the center of the room. This is what this conversation is about, Governor, and you have done that. So thank you for changing the conversation. Thank you for changing the narrative. Well, let me express to you, Governor, and everyone else, that this work is not possible unless you have boards of education that believe in this work. There's nothing I can do unless my board allows me to do this work. And I want to recognize the president of the board and the trustees, Reverend Steve Lopez. Thank you so much for being here. And certainly, this work is not possible unless we have leaders, labor leaders, who want to do this work, who believe in this work, who also want to fight for children. And I know we have the president of the YFT and the president of the YCA here, Samantha and Jane. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And certainly, we cannot do this work without a PTA that believes in this work. And the PTA president is here, Ms. Carmen Goodstein. Thank you so much for being here. So let me go back to saying thank you to you, Governor, and to my state delegation. And I call them my state delegation because they take my calls at all kinds of hours. And sometimes they like the conversation, and sometimes they don't like the conversation. Because my conversation will always be, can we get better? Governor, one of the things that we have done in Yonkers is that we changed the conversation from a deficiency model to a successful model. And I think that's what you're doing for the state as well. Let's talk about success. Let's not talk about everything that we're doing wrong, but rather let us speak about all the great things that we can do because we are able to do it. Think about the fact that we are at the Enrico Fermi School, an Italian physicist. Okay? Think about the fact that he was also an immigrant. And yet, if you read his history, he was perhaps one of the best physicists in the world. And the things that he accomplished are unbelievable. That's exactly what we do here in this particular school. This is a school made of immigrant children who are truly focused on getting an education, not only for themselves, but to make their parents proud. So we in Yonkers, we will never apologize for fighting for more. Never. The Foundation A is now funded. Now we're going to change the Foundation A, and we're going to lead the work, believe me, here in Yonkers. We have fought for more capital investment. We're going to continue on this bandwagon. We need more. You see these facilities, Governor. We need to invest more on schools' facilities because they are entitled to have state-of-the-art science lab, music room, and so on and so forth. And we know that you are the leader that's going to lead us through that. So welcome to Yonkers. Welcome to the Enrico Fermi School. Thank you for all your work on behalf of children, on behalf of education. We will forever be your partner as long as the work is about our children and the future of our students. So once again, we honor you, we celebrate you, and we hope to see you around often. Thank you so very much, Governor.
Thank you for attending today's event. Please travel safe home, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.